Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
This is my top 5 background TV shows. This is inspired by a recent episode of All Fantasy Everything where they drafted their top TV shows to have in the background. As somebody who enjoys and recently talked about enjoying certain shows on in the background, I figured I would do my top 5. And since I just got my second COVID shot, one of those days in recovery while I was exhausted, mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, I was sore, I was getting achy, I got the chills. It was the perfect day to have one of my top 5 on in the background. So here it is. This is my top 5 TV shows that I will have on in the background when I'm doing different things. I mean, to have a show, it takes a special kind of show to be able to entertain without having to be paid attention to. And it could be a TV show that changes the mood, it sets the mood, either lightening the mood, distracting, kind of set a specific vibe. You don't really want a show that's got something that's going to suck you in with a story. You don't want like an intense plot or anything that you need to pay attention to. Like, you really want something that you can just kind of either listen to or casually look up every once in a while. Not have to wonder where we are in the story, either because you've seen it a bunch of times or because it doesn't have an overarching narrative that you need to keep up with. It could just be, one of those types of shows where each episode is a self-contained thing, or it could be one of those shows where throughout the episode is just a collection of things that happen and things like that. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's clarify and flesh out what that criteria means in my top 5, starting with my number 5 TV show to put on in the background. This is a reality TV show. There was a few reality TV shows I was choosing from, but this is the one that I decided to put on the list because it is one that I have in multiple times of my life. Put it on. It's a show that I put on in the background generally when I'm pretty depressed. And that show is coming in at number 5, The Amazing Race. This is the show that I first got into back in like 2007. I was feeling really sick, and I'd been sick, and I had taken like a week off of work, and like I had taken a week off of work to paint, and it just completely wasted the week because I was sick and I was depressed. And I decided I had seen like an episode, at work in the employee break room. So I decided I downloaded the most current season at the time. This is like 2007 of The Amazing Race. And I binged that show. And it's a show that I've literally watched every episode of every season. The most recent time I binged it and had it on in the background, I was going through a blog list that listed the top seasons to watch in order. So I watched from the most highest rated season, at least in this blog, to the, all the way down. But it's a show, people compete. They race around the world with a chance to win a bunch of money. They do challenges, and it's, they have to negotiate travel and the different languages and different cultural changes and different things. It's a really fun show that you really can just kind of poke your head in now and then. It's got nice theme music, which is nice when you have a background show to you have that audible kind of every episode when it starts, you hear that theme music. But yeah, The Amazing Race is a fun one where you can just kind of look up, watch some teams compete in some ridiculous thing, and then look down and go back to your thing. Maybe hear some drama going on. You look up, you see what the drama is. Maybe there's a couple teams fighting in an airport, and then you look down and go back to your work. But number 5, The Amazing Race is the go-to reality show that I will put on this list of background TV shows. Coming in at number 4 of my top 5 background TV shows to have on in the background, This is a show that will set the mood. It sets the vibe. It's a show that has one of the most relaxing voices known to man, and that show is Planet Earth, or any of those David Attenborough documentary series that combines his soothing voice with just some of the most amazing visuals of nature. Just a beautiful thing to have on in the background. It's like the most beautiful screensaver you can have on. And then it's got a very calming voice. You get to, if you do pay attention, you learn a little bit of stuff. You get introduced to new ideas and new creatures and new ways things exist on this planet. But then you can also just look away and you're not missing anything. Or you can look up and not hear anything. It could be on mute and you just see these beautiful visuals running across your screen. But yeah, Planet Earth is like, it's almost the quintessential background TV show to put on. It's just, I mean, any of those nature documentaries are amazing, but yeah, it's just visually, especially since the advent of high def TVs. It's just it's a category unto itself. These documentaries that are great for background TV show watching. So moving on now to number 3, my number 3 pick for my top 5 TV shows to have on in the background. This is the show that I had on recently while recovering from my second vaccine shot for the COVID vaccine. And that show is Impractical Jokers. This is a show that competes, I would say, very closely with another improv show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? Both of these shows are structured in a way that really lends itself to being put on in the background, a TV show to be put on in the background. I mean, both of these shows are marathoned on different networks constantly. And I think it's done for a reason. Impractical Jokers, similar to Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because it's an improv show, you get little moments of comedy. It's also just small segments, right? There's no overarching plot. There's no character developments. You're just looking up now and then, seeing a couple guys being funny, being positive, making fun of each other, making each other laugh, doing these comedic things, playing around with people, doing these improvised skits and scenarios with real people. You can just look up, have a laugh, and then look back down and go back to what you're wanting. And meanwhile, while you're working, you're getting like this ambient sound of just friends having fun, being friends with each other, which, as far as a mood lifter, as a background show, Impractical Jokers is great. I think it's funny. I enjoy all of the characters. I've talked multiple times on this show about Impractical Jokers and why I love it. And the only show that I could see replacing this show that would be similar structurally, that you could just like look up and enjoy and then look back down and not miss anything, would be Whose Line Is It Anyway? But I think Impractical Jokers, between the two, the fact that they go out in public and they have so many episodes, it's just like the perfect. It's almost the perfect. Comes in at number 3. As far as, it's my third perfect show to have on in the background. Practical Jokers coming in at number 3. Moving on now to my number 2 pick. Number 2 out of 5. Out of my top 5 TV shows to have on in the background, this show is coming in at number 2, and that show is the sitcom that, with positivity, like just seeping through it, it's a sitcom that I think holds up throughout all of its seasons, and that sitcom got me through some incredibly difficult times last year. Coming in at number 2 of my background TV shows is Parks and Recreation. Just an amazing sitcom. If I were to replace this with another sitcom, it would have been The Office. Both of these shows, I think The Office falls apart in its last season, so that is why Parks and Rec beat it to the list. But both of those shows have an intro song, a theme song that is just a joy to listen to. I love hearing it whenever I hear it, in any situation I hear it. It's a theme song that really sets the mood, sets the tone. I also enjoy Parks and Rec more than The Office because there's a lot more positivity in the characters of Parks and Rec versus The Office. They're all really kind of horrible to each other. Dwight is kind of like an early Trump supporter. He's like a pre-Trump supporter, but still palatable through the show. But The Office really falls off towards the end, where I think Parks and Rec holds up throughout. There's some seasons that are better than others, but I think as a whole, it is just a joy to watch. It's a show that I've watched, through at least twice now. The first time I watched it was last year. And it's one of those sitcoms that, there's a ton of episodes. It's sad that it's now behind. Most of those episodes are behind a paywall over on Peacock versus they used to be free on Netflix. But I mean, if I really get in the mood to rewatch and go through Parks and Rec, Peacock is only $5 a month or $10 a month if I want ad free. So, if I want to burn through the series again, I'll pay $10 to get it for a month and just cancel it. But I love Parks and Rec. It's a show that works well. I mean, you don't necessarily need to pay attention to the overarching character developments, how these characters change. Every episode is fairly self-contained. It's what's going to happen with these people in this small town. They're positive, so mood-wise, it's got good vibes all around. But I just love it. Parks and Rec, it just makes me feel so good. It's just a show I enjoy watching. It's so many characters that I enjoy seeing. And it's a perfect show that even just hearing that theme song when a new episode comes up, even if I've missed, like I haven't been paying attention for episodes, just hearing that theme song come up at the beginning of every episode is a treat. So that's my number 2 pick of my top background TV shows. My number 1 pick, my favorite TV show to have on in the background, is a show that I've seen a ton of times. It is a classic. It's well regarded as one of the best sitcoms ever made. It is constantly regarded still to this day as one of the best shows. It is a show that I've watched, like I said, many times. But it is a show that, similar to Parks and Rec, I enjoy. But unlike Parks and Rec, I think the writing for each episode, even though still being self-contained, you can watch these episodes out of order if you want to, which there is a shuffle. The service that streams this show has a shuffle feature that literally shuffles through the episodes, which is fine because every episode has multiple storylines that are all tied up at the end, self-contained, funny. And that show coming in at number 1, my top 5 TV shows to have on in the background, is Seinfeld. Boom, ba-dum, dum, 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 dum. I love Seinfeld. It's a show, obviously, that I loved when it was originally broadcast. It's a show that I've watched many times when DVDs came out. It was one of the first TV series that I bought every season. Actually, I think somebody may have gotten me for a Christmas or birthday gift the entire season or series of Seinfeld. Either way, it's a series that I have watched multiple times over and over again. Despite the fact that, yes, the characters are kind of bad people, it is still a funny show. I can't get into Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's like all of the things that people don't like about Seinfeld are the things that I don't like about Curb in a lot of ways. And it's just a show I can't get into. But Seinfeld I can watch and rewatch. And the theme music is great. Obviously, the characters are iconic. It's just one. It's a well-written sitcom. Like I said, multiple stories all tie up at the end of every episode, which is ridiculous. So even though you know an episode for one thing, it may also be the classic episode that's in reference to another thing. I mean, it's an amazing show. It was the no brainer to be my number one. That's one of the things with having a TV show on in the background. It's something that you don't need to pay attention to. And this one, you don't need to pay attention to it because you should have already watched it enough times to have memorized the entire series. Some people don't like how it ends. I think it's fine. The final episode, it's so hard to, how are you gonna like wrap something up? So all of them going to jail, finally paying for the horrible things that they've done throughout the show, I think is a perfectly fitting way to end it. It's not my favorite episode, but if you're going to end the series in a way, I don't have a problem with it. But all the episodes are amazing, from the Chinese restaurant episode to, the masturbation competition episode to, I just, so many things with George Costanza, all the things that he tries to get away with, all the things Kramer, all the crazy, wacky schemes that Kramer comes up with, putting levels in his apartment, putting a hot tub in his apartment, having Japanese businessmen sleep in his oversized, clothing drawers. It's just a crazy show. I love it so much. That's why it's coming in at my number one TV show to have on in the background. Let me go over my top 5 list one more time. My top 5 TV shows to have on in the background, starting with number 5, The Amazing Race. Number 4, Planet Earth. Number 3, Impractical Jokers. Number 2, Parks and Recreation. And my number 1 TV show to have on in the background is the one and only Seinfeld. Please let me know what your favorite shows are to have on in the background in the comments. You can hit me up on social media at Ray Taylor. And like I said, some of my honorable mentions, The Repair Shop is a great reality show, and Alone, both reality shows that could have potentially taken the place of The Amazing Race. Planet Earth. I mean, there's a ton of documentary series that could have been on there, but Planet Earth, I think, is the go-to kind of spearhead. Impractical Jokers, Whose Lines Is It Anyway, would be a similar ones to that. The Office, obviously, being a comparable one to Parks and Rec, and Seinfeld. I mean, for some people, it's Friends. For me, it's Seinfeld. And for you, it might be something different. So let me know what it is in the comments. Hope everybody's having a good day. Make sure you watch your TV in the background and do other things in the foreground. Go over and get yourself some amazing coffee over at stationhousecoffee.com and follow Station House Coffee on Instagram for the best coffee in the world. Hands down. It's been voted on. It's been chosen. Deal with it, people. It's the best small batch, single origin, premium coffee you will ever get inside of your body. So go order yourself some amazing coffee over at stationhousecoffee.com and give Station House Coffee a follow on Instagram and let them know that I sent you. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Buy my merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out.